Welcome, listeners, to Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, hosted by Rene Bravo and Bryan Quevedo. If you are a new listener of the show, please follow us on our socials on Instagram at Keepin' With The Nerds and Twitter at Keepin' With Nerd. Our podcasts are recorded in Whittier, California, and are posted on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts every Wednesday at 11:30. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
I'm looking back at this week, Rene.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, like, how did I even live through this entire week?
Oh, that's right. You had a very, very big week.
It was intense.
Yeah. A lot has happened in the world of Bryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me, I'm just kind of like, eh.
For once, you know what? Because I use it as a joke sometimes where I'm like, oh, yeah, I forget to eat. I forget to sleep.
No, I'm
just consume
legitimately
caffeine.
afraid that you're going to, like, just die either from starvation, sleep deprivation, or just dehydration.
I don't know. Yeah.
Like, your body's, like, you're going to be, like, on the computer, like, just clicking away, and you go, they just drop.
That's it.
Like,
that's how Bryan ends.
Yeah.
He died on his PC, editing, doing what he loved.
Yeah.
That's a sad way to go out. I was just thinking about it because, like, I was like, it dawned on me twice in 1 week, which is not good, that I, like, forgot to eat. And I was just like, how do you forget to eat? Like, you would think your body has natural instincts to tell you, hey, dummy, go grab something to eat.
Yeah.
But no. Like, I think I could, you know, my next goal in life is to be the next Willy Wonka of food. Make, like, packets of Jell-O or something that's just packed with nutrients, so you don't have to eat anything anymore.
It doesn't even taste good. It's just like,
it's just like it does. We'll make it taste. We'll make it taste good, so it's not like a waste.
I feel like it's gonna taste like motor oil. It's just like, but just like, but there's a little hint of strawberries.
I feel like what I'm saying now is the birth of, like, extreme capitalism, where now, like, businesses are like, you know what? If you don't have to spend 30 minutes to eat, you can just spend 5 minutes outside the break room. Forget meals. Just take this Jell-O and just down it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Ignore the chip inside of it. The blinking little chip.
You ever watch, like, the Tour de France's and stuff like that? No? Okay. So for the longest time, because my dad was a huge, like, like, he rode, like, road bikes a lot. He would go on weekend, like, every weekend, basically, like, take the San Gabriel River Trail all the way down to the beach just for fun. And I remember I'd wake up at, like, 4 or 5 in the morning and the TV would be on and he'd watch those races. So I would ask him constantly, I'm like, what are those things that they pull out of their back pouches that's like they rip it up and they just eat it? And she's like, oh, it's like a liquid or something like that. I don't remember what he said, but it was like a liquid Jell-O that's just jam-packed with calories and nutrients.
Ooh, wow.
And in my head, keep in mind, this is me as a kid.
Yeah.
My thought was, why don't I have that?
I want that.
I want that.
You honestly need that just to get you through the day. I tell you to get Power Bars or Cliff Bars.
But those are expensive.
I know.
Like, it does not make any sense why in a store a bottle of water is like $1.75 and a can of soda is like 50 cents. And then what? Candy bars. You buy 5 and you get 1 for free, but a Cliff Bar is like $2.
Because they're cheap to make. That's why.
I don't give a crap.
A Cliff Bar is probably expensive to make.
So what? Is it, like, easier to just consume a bunch of crap and hope, like, you know,
you just
snap out of existence?
You just explain America right now.
That's true. I'm telling you, like, now that some businessman's going to hear this conversation and they're going to be like, let's invent this Jell-O thing packed with nutrients. If they ever check my blood, which they have to for work, but they'll probably measure it now and be like, why is your body like 90% blood, 10% caffeine? I'm like, those numbers are wrong. It should be like 25% caffeine, 75% blood.
Especially what we got today. You decided to get Ghost today.
Because it tasted good.
It actually really was.
Hey, shout out to Ghost for liking our Instagram post.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we didn't say that in the
last
podcast,
but I mean, no, because we recorded it and then we didn't notice that they liked it until later.
Yeah.
Which was good.
Yeah, Ghost did a good job with these energy drinks. I'm really enjoying these.
Sponsor us.
Please sponsor us.
You know you want to.
We'll take a case of whatever you give us for life.
Please. Love you.
Okay.
All right. We got a pretty jam-packed episode.
Oh my God. This is going to be a big podcast.
Yes. So are we ready to go ahead and start?
Yeah, let's do
I
it.
intro, right?
Your intro.
I'm intro, just to make sure. We got this. Here we go.
Hello, citizens! Welcome to Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California. Aiming to be Whittier's #1 podcast for all things nerdy. I'm your host, Bryan.
Rene.
And welcome to the show, issue number 40.
We hit our 40s.
We're almost at our 1 year. It's in June.
It's in June coming up. It's in a few months. Wow.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That is actually.
That's massive. We're at 40, technically issue 40, but 2 annuals.
Yeah.
So, can't believe we've lived this far. And we're going strong too because we're working on our YouTube channel.
We still have yet to take a break.
Yes.
Which I'm proud of us.
If you're still on, like, if we got listeners still here, which we do.
Yeah.
We know you guys. But just a reminder, you can find us on YouTube. We do post videos weekly now because of all the content that's coming out. So feel free to look us up, Keeping Up with the Nerds, subscribe to us there and like the videos there. Mm-hmm. And our socials as well. Follow us on there. They'll be in the link or in the description down below if you're watching this on YouTube, and in the Spotify description as well, audio platform descriptions. Let's go ahead and start.
Yes.
We do have a special guest, Rene.
Yeah?
Yes.
Where?
For this special occasion, because let's celebrate. Snyder finally released the Snyder Cut Justice League movie. Mm-hmm. Our special guest, you can find him on the Waffle Press and Serving Up Comics. You can find that on YouTube and any audio platform. SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. Or no Podbean?
I believe Podbean is.
Okay. As well as his Twitter and Instagram handle at the Nick Valero. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Valero!
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's been a while since I've been in this room, man.
Yeah,
it's been a while, man. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a while since you and I have had some sort of like nerd conversation like this.
Yeah, we used to work together a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's how we met, and that was like the craziest minute. That was like the craziest moment of like, I talked to Rene one day, and he was just like, oh, yeah, I got a buddy named Bryan. And and he's like, oh, he's really into nerdy stuff. And then I went to Bryan at work, and I was just like, yeah, man, the dude over at Undercity Comics. And he's just like, Rene? And I go, oh, you're the Bryan! Small world.
Yeah.
It's world,
I always find it funny because, like, you and I worked together for about 3 years. We won't mention where we worked at or anything like that, but no, we won't. Yeah. But we worked there for like 3 years, and then we went our separate ways. But like, funny enough, you and I have always like crossed paths in like the most like in places where we would expect to cross paths, but unexpectedly.
That's funny. It's always at like a movie premiere for some nerdy movie, like Aquaman or something like that. Or
last time, so the most recent one that I remember was the Adam West tribute in Los Angeles.
I did bump into you there. That's right.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was that. But also, where? Did you think I was gonna miss that?
No, obviously not. But but let's face it, there was like hundreds of people there, and I was already on my way out,
and I bumped into you.
Yeah, so it was like, no, it's great, it's good. Thank you for being on the podcast. Sir.
Oh no problem, man, no problem. Yeah, I especially for the Adam West thing, I don't think I've ever really cried in public as much as I did at the Adam West.
It was a heartbreaking moment.
It was a very heartbreaking moment.
Yeah,
and not only that, but also it was really cool when the mayor of Los Angeles walked out and he had the red phone.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, I remember.
He had the red phone, and it was like, and we will forever hold this in our hearts. Goodbye, fair hero. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not gonna cry. and then he goes, and we'll light the symbol one last time. And then he lit the bat symbol in the air on City Hall, and I just remember like immediately like just going like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
It was hard. I mean, because like what? That was 1966 Batman. Granted, Absolutely. We were not born then, but still, it's like even as nerds, like we can appreciate the culture that comes back then.
I think as Batman fans, we also just you can't be a Batman fan without watching or knowing about the Adam West.
My dad introduced me to Batman through Adam West.
Oh, really?
That's how I actually got introduced to to like Batman and stuff like that. Not only that, but also when I was a kid, it used to be on like Nick at Night.
Oh yeah.
And I was a terrible child, and I would always stay up really late, and then I would, and then be sleepy for school the next day. But I would watch, the 69 Batman.
Yeah.
And so Adam West is kind of like my first Batman, and then Kevin Conroy. Yeah. And then I started watching, Batman the animated series and everything like that, and that's kind of where I got into like Batman. And as Bryan knows, we used to have debates at work. Because he would be just talking about Spider-Man for like an hour.
Yeah.
And he would be talking about Spider-Man for like an hour, and the people that we were with were just like kind of tuning him out. And then I would just be like, "That's why Batman's better." And he would be like, "That's not true," and I just walk out of the room.
Yeah, but I was a kid back then, man. I mean,
but it was just so great to do because I knew I could let him rant for like an hour, and I just had to say one word, and he would just be so upset.
I think, you know what? I was a kid back then. Now I'm just like, all right, whatever you want.
What are you trying to say? I'm a man now. I'm gonna fight you.
We'll take this outside.
We take this outside.
Your introduction to Batman was what, Rene? Because I think we talked about it when we were talking about the three Jokers. But
so mine was the Kevin Conroy.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then I watched the movies, but then my dad told me about when he would watch Batman. He told me I was aware of it, but I never actually sat down and watched Adam West Batman. And my dad showed me the movie, Batman, the movie. And I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. It's a different take. I was more interested of how people got into this Batman. I didn't necessarily like love it right away because I was like, oh, it's not what I'm used to. Because this is watching from obviously the animated series, how serious and noir and dark tone that is. And then watching this one, this different take on Batman, I was like, ooh, okay, but it's still fun to watch.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch the old Super Friends TV show?
No, actually.
The cartoon?
Yeah, the old cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to watch that on Cartoon Network too.
Was it the vintage programming? What was it called?
Yeah, like their vintage programming.
Hanna-Barbera?
Yeah, had the Hanna-Barbera.
Boomerang.
It was Boomerang.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yes.
I got it. Boomerang. Guys.
Boomerang.
We came to it all together.
It was a group effort.
Yeah, it was a group effort. Came to Boomerang, the thing that comes back to you.
Oh, I just now got why it's called that.
It's something that comes back. Yeah.
Brian's face.
Did I just explain why they marketed it as Boomerang?
Yeah.
What?
Brian's mind literally blew up right now.
He was like, that's why they called it Boomerang?
No, I think I was familiar with it. Actually, do you mind lowering Nick's a little bit? Just a little bit. Yeah, his gain's a little too high. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
I'm a loud person in general.
No, I think I've heard about the whole like Boomerang thing. It's like, oh, it comes back to you because I think that was advertised. That's how it was advertised.
Yeah, that's how it was.
But it didn't like make sense until you said it. Yeah, I was
Yes.
like, whoa, that's sick.
Well, as a kid, you're watching stuff just to watch stuff. You're not taking things.
Yeah, you're not taking it in.
Yeah.
Funny enough, like, because I think like I mentioned that Kevin Conroy was technically my first Batman.
Yeah.
But I was introduced to Batman because of the Batmobiles. So the 66 Batman for me was the introduction because of the Batmobile.
Because of the Futura.
Is that what it was called?
The Futura. So basically what it is that this is the Batmobile was made after a car named the Futura. And it was a futuristic car that was made, and it was like showed off at like the World Fair, and it was supposed to be like the highlight of like this is what the next car is going to look like.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like that. And then what ended up happening is that they never made the car. But the people that were making Batman at the time were able to actually get a cast of it, and they actually made a full-on cast of what the Futura was. And that's how you got the Batmobile with the glass pods and everything like that. If you want, Rene, look up the Futura, and it is like it even has like the fighter pilot pods and everything like that. It is a car that has never been produced, and it's a car that yeah, it's ridiculous.
The more you know. I didn't even know about that.
It's a super rare car.
Huh.
It's even rare just to find a full on like mold of the car. Like no one has it. And it has to, and it's a specific specific one because it has specific measurements to it and stuff like that.
What was the brand that made it, do you know?
I forget. I do forget which the brand is, but the cool thing about the car is it's completely handmade. So
like Ferrari.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that the Futura, it actually had metal brackets that spanned the entire car, and they were all hand cut and hand hand cut, hand soldered, everything like that, and it was put into the car. It looked amazing back in the day. It was a really cool car.
All right. Well, this is a good little side conversation, a little tangent of Batman because let's get into the Snyder Cut.
This is why you bring me onto a Batman podcast.
Yeah.
I know far too much.
Actually, let's open up our energy drinks before we start. Because we haven't even done that yet.
Yeah.
How far into the podcast? 16 minutes?
16 minutes in. Yeah.
Ooh,
So
that is good.
I tell you, man, I'm telling you.
Good.
Ghost is great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I might actually. Where'd you get these?
At 7-Eleven. It's down the street. No, down that way.
Oh, okay.
Listeners won't know, but
well,
it's
even
down
this little liquor store down the street sells them as well too.
I always seem to like drink like Monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this is bomb. Like this is so.
No,
good.
it's a different change up. That's why.
Yeah.
We for the longest time we were drinking Monsters.
Bangs.
We started out Bangs, then we switched to Monsters because we got sick of Bangs. So.
Was that like a weird gay joke that you guys were trying to tell?
Yeah.
Well, you guys were
a little subtle.
Yeah, it's a subtle gay joke that you're trying to tell.
Let's move on to the Snyder Cut because that was a 4-hour epic movie.
Yes.
And we have a lot to talk about. Because I know, granted, how Rene and I are.
Yes.
We tangent to a point where we're like gone.
Don't worry, I'm in the same way.
Yeah, so we're going to try to behave ourselves here.
Yeah.
We're going to try.
Yeah.
I need you to solemnly swear. This isn't Harry Potter, but still.
Are you going to ask me to solemnly swear to do no good?
You know,
Is that what you were about to tell me?
Do you want to finish that, Bryan? Do you want to know?
Is that what you were trying? Are you trying to like nerd card me? Like what is this? Like he's like, oh, it's from Harry Potter. What is it, man?
What do you think this is from? No, I said I grew up, Nick. I don't do that stuff anymore. That stuff's from
Anymore.
Was me. Yeah, anymore. I've grown out of that. No, so the Snyder Cut, just to warn our listeners, because who knows? This is your spoiler warning.
yes.
Yeah.
We're entering the territory of spoilers here. If you have not watched the Snyder Cut, please turn back and then come and listen to us again. I will tell you right now, we will tell you actually, it is worth the 4 hours.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Watch the movie, then come back and listen to us, and you can hear us pretty much talk about what we think and what we hope to see from Warner Brothers if things are good.
Yeah.
With that said, final spoiler warning. And let's talk. All right, Snyder Cut. Was it great?
You know what? I thought it was,
Yes.
yes, it was good. It was really good. It's way better than the Whedon cut that we had gotten, the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, should we be calling it the Whedon Cut? Like, I'm going to call this straight out. I don't want to call it the Whedon Cut because I kind of feel like it's a disrespect to Whedon when his hands were tied.
The reason I call it the Whedon cut, and it's either the Whedon cut or the theatrical cut. The reason I call it the Whedon cut is because he shot 75%.
Yeah, but I mean, was it? I guess I'm in this difficult position because I don't want to disrespect Whedon because he's done some good work.
No, he has. And,
Yeah.
the problem is that it's really difficult when you come into a project, and then what the suits basically say is, we don't like this cut. We need you to cut this 4-hour movie to 1 hour and 45 minutes and make it funnier, do more action.
We want what Disney has.
Yeah. Like
And they legitly made it brighter too.
Yeah, and they did make it brighter too. They made everything, they gave it like this weird gloss over the entire movie, which I was like, why is it so shiny? In which, no, I can't even say anything because I know I'm recorded on so many different podcasts of saying, why are Zack Snyder's movies so dark?
We've said that too. No, we've said that.
No, but I think, and you said it, or someone said it, where now, I think it was our friend Bishop. He commented, he goes, he's grown to appreciate
The Snyderverse movies.
Yeah, the Snyderverse movies now because of how we got basically a worst version of his film. Essentially,
the thing is that what you did notice is because it doesn't feel like it's a Snyder movie, and I feel like that's the problem.
So this is where it becomes a little bit complicated for me because I'm not going to refer to the old film as like the Whedon cut. I'm going to refer to it on this podcast at least as the theatrical cut.
That's fine.
Theatrical or studio cut.
The studio cut.
It feels like that's.
I feel like it's more the theatrical cut.
I mean, theatrical is in the sense of it being like more of a common word because technically it is a studio cut because the studios, you said it, the suits are the ones that said like, hey, this is what we want, this is what we're gonna get, and we don't care if we want what Disney has, and they gave us a Justice League movie that was not good.
From what exactly people are reporting is that when they put Whedon on that movie, they knew it was gonna fail. They immediately were just like, this is not what
Snyder left. due to tragic, tragic events.
That's the tricky part, because now people are coming out saying like Snyder was already on the outs. Yes, his daughter did, tragically pass away, but he was already kind of like, he was already having disagreements with the studio. Mm-hmm. He was already kind of on the outs of them. He was having disagreements.
That would make a little bit more sense because of why the drastic change of movie. Yeah, from his cut to now when they got Whedon.
Yeah, because here's the problem though. From a business standpoint, when you have a movie that's 4 hours, you can't make a lot of money.
Yeah, because that's giving you the theater can only have it for so long in a day.
So let's just say the theater is open from 7 o'clock from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way till like midnight or anything like that. You can maybe show the movie 8 times. Mm-hmm. If that. Whereas if the movie's 2 hours, I can show this movie.
You would need to rent out more theaters.
Yes,
and not to mention there's other movies out during that time as well too.
Not only that, but also those movie theaters specifically, because in their contracts it says we will have this many specifically this many.
Yeah, this many screens available.
And then it's up to AMC, The Village, wherever the movie's playing, to then go, hey, we're going to show it in more theaters or in more things, because there is like a minimum of we have to show it in the last at least 2 to 3 theaters.
That's insane how much work goes behind all this. This is why I love the film industry, because it's so fascinating to me to listen to all this stuff. Like, you would think that it's just like, oh yeah, movie plays in the theater, but no, there's work that goes behind it. It's like all negotiations and stuff.
Yeah. So I watched a reviewer his on YouTube. I think you guys heard of him, Chris Stuckerman.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
he recently this morning he posted his review on the Snyder Cut, and he made it a good little analogy that we just talked about that is that the reason why he's happy that this movie came out the way it did, because when you do a movie, like you said, you have to cut it down to a certain amount of time for theaters to play it as much and stuff.
Yeah, to make your money back.
Yeah, because the studio wants to make the money, obviously. They put so much money into it, they want
How much money did this... Okay, how much money was in the original cut?
The original cut, are you talking about with or without marketing?
Yeah, marketing's another big thing, and they put a lot of money into marketing.
Well, here's the thing, though. Actually, if you notice, it's really funny, because that movie originally had a large marketing budget. Mm-hmm. Then, near the release, they cut the marketing budget like by a third.
Oh yeah.
And then because that was at the point where like studio heads have seen this movie, they know it's gonna flop, they know people aren't gonna like it, and they're just like, okay, we're gonna release it, and what we're hoping for is that a lot of people go to opening night.
Yeah.
That's where our money is. Our money is opening night, because they don't make money opening night. The problem, you don't make a movie the first time somebody goes. You make a movie the second and third time they go. That's when you start like, okay, I'm going to start making a lot of money from these people. That's how you start getting into those like billion marks. And that's how you get to Avengers Endgame. Somebody had to watch it 10, 12 times.
So $300 million on budget from the original, and this is according to Wikipedia. So I don't know if this is right. It could be wrong, but then you said, okay, let's assume that it's around the $300 million mark. It could be plus or minus 50 million.
I think they put like another 75 million into this cut.
So that we're talking almost about 500 million.
About.
Yeah.
Total, altogether. And that's including the marketing. So this is almost
it's a fortune.
It's a big. There's a lot of money being spent on this.
You could feed a small country for years.
That's insane. That's insane. Like how much money went into this.
I know that they put a lot of money into marketing for BVS.
Yes,
that was they went over.
But the problem, here's the thing though, is that the studio didn't know that BVS was going to bomb.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Because everyone was hyped for BVS.
Everybody was hyped. Not only that, but also if you take away a lot of portions of BVS, BVS is not bad. It's not. It has its merits, and I know I might get crucified for it later.
No, I think
it's okay. You know what? This podcast, there's a lot of stuff that comes out.
There's gonna be. I already know there's gonna be somebody that's like, "Oh, hang him at the head."
I was telling Bryan this.
Batman doesn't kill.
That's my major gripe with that. But other than that, no, I was telling Bryan, as we're watching the Snyder Cut for Justice League, the movie opens right when BVS, ends and stuff like that. And it basically, what Snyder was trying to do was trying to make BVS very relevant into his cut. When you look at it, that's the thing.
Okay.
It actually, and I told him, like, it makes you watching Man of Steel and BVS, and then when you watch his cut, his snot. I was like, his
snot.
His snot.
No, you were right the first time.
When you watch his cut, it feels the payoff is a lot better.
Well, you know what the thing is that also there's a thing inside the beginning of the movie. If you end up watching the theatrical version, one of the characters, I think it was Queen Hippolyta, she asked the question, "What woke up the mother box?" Mm-hmm. No one answers it. No one ever says this is what woke it up. You just kind of are led to assume
in the theatrical cut, right?
In the theatrical cut,
Mm-hmm.
that
something has awakened.
Something like Stephen Wolf woke them up.
Yeah, we assume that Stephen Wolf. Yeah,
that's kind of like your assumption.
His coming to Earth.
The theatrical cut is full of assumptions.
It's like there's a lot of assumptions.
So feeding off of like what Rene was saying, and I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I think we're done with the whole like studio, the budget and stuff, right? Okay. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit to like what friend of the show Bishop said, right? Where it like makes you appreciate all these different movies that came before Justice League after watching the Snyder Cut, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm on that same boat. Granted, to some people, I'll never admit it because I know some people that are like die hard, I like Man of Steel and I hate you if you hate it. No. I'm going to build off of what you said and say that this movie essentially made me appreciate the stuff that came beforehand. Because the example I used yesterday was the X-Men series. So I didn't grow up watching any of the X-Men movies. I think I like watched the first one and that's where I stopped. And then when I met my fiance, she was like, "Oh yeah, no," because that was like her nerd thing. She's like, "Yeah, I watched all the X-Men movies," and she watched First Class. I've never seen First Class, so she's like, "Go ahead and watch First Class." No, yeah. Let me finish. Let me see what happened because I got mad. So after watching, was it Days of Futures Past where they go back in time?
Yes.
Okay, so I went through X-Men 1, 2, 3, First Class, then Days of Futures Past. That movie retconned 1 and 2 and kept some of 3.
Technically, no. It technically doesn't retcon 1 and 2. It technically retcons 3.
But
bits and pieces of 3, yeah.
Bits and pieces of 2. So it's the other way around. So bits and pieces of 2 and retcons 3.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you know how frustrating it was for me to sit back and say like, so then what the hell was the point of watching 1, 2, and 3 if they didn't even matter at the end? Like, it was a waste of my freaking time.
Yep.
And I was pissed.
In all fairness, you could probably watch 1, go into Future Class.
No, Nick, I didn't know this.
Yeah, you know what? It technically does retcon 2.
It does technically because you never go to Alkali Lake.
No, yeah.
Because all 2 is basically Alkali Lake.
But I wasn't told about this until after that. After watching Days of Futures Past, I said, why did I spend all this time watching some... No! Well, because I think that movie... No, I think we watched it in theaters, Days of Futures Past. And so afterwards, I love Days of Futures Past. I was just pissed that I spent all this time watching 1, 2, and 3 for it to not even matter. But what did the Snyder Cut do? It literally said, okay, you know what? Everything that you've spent watching, BVS and Man of Steel, these movies matter now.
It really did respect your time.
Yeah, it was like, you might not like Man of Steel, and you might not like BVS, but thank you for watching. Let me go ahead and give you the final wrap-up.
Yeah, I think Rene was there when I said it. The biggest gripe I have about Superman, about Man of Steel, is probably the fact that he at no point went, I should take this out of the city.
Yeah.
And like
go lock the doors. Make sure no one's coming in because Nick's dead.
Like that was I think that was like my biggest gripe with it. Like the entire movie is good. It's a good Superman movie. And then because there's always a moment inside of like comic books in like the cartoons, everything like that, where Superman sees marginal destruction. Yeah. And then like even just like a building collapses. And then he immediately goes, I need to take this out of the city.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like all the superheroes in any sort of comic book would see like a building or a bridge to being destroyed, and they're like, okay, we need to move.
Like, we need to
move this fight.
We need to move the fight out.
Yeah.
It's bad when Goku makes the same point. You know it's bad. You know when like Goku,
world's worst father, has better damage control than Man of Steel.
Like you know it's bad. You know it's bad when Goku sees West City getting destroyed, and then he's just like, I need to take this out of the city. I need to take this into like rocks. Where if I blow up 10 square miles, I'm not gonna really kill it.
Nick, he blew up a planet. He blew up
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember when Man of Steel first came out, me and my friends went to go see it, and we were just like, dude, that movie has so much destruction in it.
Yeah,
it does.
And so then we went to go see other movies along the following years after that, and I remember we went to go see like Pacific Rim, and we are like, Pacific Rim. Still less destruction than Man of Steel.
I feel like Godzilla had less destruction, and Godzilla is known as the destroyer of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Someone. Nick.
If you think about it,
Nick, do you hear that? That's the typing and that's the writing of just research being done to say
come at me. Come at me.
You just did this wrong because Godzilla can destroy this many blocks and Superman didn't even destroy Metropolis entirely. So you're wrong.
Did you see that crater? He might as well have.
Yeah. Do you remember when he's fighting in Smallville? You know,
yeah,
fights in Smallville. Kent Farm is basically flattened.
Also, like, kudos to like the reconstruction plan because they rebuilt Kent Farm almost to a T.
Yeah, right. It was just
I always love that. Whenever
Pa Kent must have kept the plans.
The blueprints are like somewhere hidden in like.
I knew this was gonna happen. Once I knew I had an alien baby. I knew this was gonna happen.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The Man of Steel movie was Snyder's first DCEU movie, right?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
And then he did BVS.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what else?
That was it.
Those two movies?
Just 2 movies, yeah.
He was involved in.
He was involved in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and he wasn't involved in.
He
Aquaman.
wrote Wonder Woman, like co-wrote it, right?
No, he was a co-creator.
Co-creator.
He was I think he was on story. Like he helped create story because he was in the very beginning. He was very much our Kevin Feige of the
DCU.
Of the DCU.
But the thing was, as soon as BVS got.
Because Man of Steel got a lot of flack, and then everybody was, and then like the problem that you have, and I take it back to Justice League. The problem that the DCEU had was that immediately they wanted to rush into a Justice League movie. We had 2 movies, and then we immediately want to rush into the Justice League, and I feel like that's what takes up a lot of the 4 hours. This movie of Justice League, just to take it back to Justice League, where it's like, hey, I have to establish Aquaman, I have to establish Arthur Curry, I have to establish who Arthur Curry is, I have to establish who Victor Stone is, what's his backstory, and I also have to tell you who Barry Allen is.
But that's smart because Snyder was working off the assumption that he wasn't going to get all these films. Because when Man of Steel came out, there was nothing that was said that Warner Brothers wanted to push for like a Batman movie or like a Wonder Woman movie.
But it's kind of like in one movie you have 3 pilots. And I smashed 3 pilots of different movies together.
Justice League.
Yeah, in Justice League, and this is what is taking up a lot of our runtime.
And that I'm gonna say if that's okay with me.
No, and don't get me wrong, it works. It does work, but that's what takes up a lot of your 4 hours.
Well, the thing, I think we talked about this a while ago. This was like a long time ago. I think like right before BVS, after BVS came out, I think a little after, where we talked about it, where Warner Brothers, the original idea for the death of Superman when that came out. Yeah. And when you watch Man of Steel, there's like little things that if you watch the documentary about the death of Superman.
That's right. We were talking about the Death of Superman Returns, the John Schnepp movie.
Yeah.
And that there was a lot of things that they had pulled from the Death of Superman, and they put it in that one.
Put it in Man of Steel, and also in BVS as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things from Kevin Smith's script. There's a lot of things from like all the different scripts.
Yeah, and I think I told you, or maybe I told you, or maybe I'm not. The one big thing that the studio or one of the executives wanted in the Death of Superman movie was that they wanted Superman to fight a spider.
And they got that fucking spider.
They did, because
that's your one cuss word.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was the wrong way. That was the wrong place.
I like how Bryan, as soon as he said it, Bryan looks at him and goes, that was it.
Darn it. Gone. Oh my God.
Do you want me to bleep that one out so you get another one?
He's thinking about it.
I might. Hold on.
Give me the timestamp.
That was possibly around 3:22.
I'm not gonna lie, because I was planning on using.
I mean,
sorry,
somewhere
else.
32 minutes.
Just in case I happen to use it somewhere else, but I am known to have a foul mouth.
Yeah.
But
Before we started, to our listeners, just a little reference before we started, because we're trying to make this podcast like PG-13. Because we do say like we work in Whittier, and or like we're recording this in Whittier, and we shout out businesses.
Make sure that
they like it. They like you.
Yeah,
Whittier also embraces us as well.
Yes.
So I told Nick, I'm like, you're allowed one cuss word, because Rene is allowed only one cuss word every like 2 issues or something like that. Yeah. I didn't expect you to just use it that quickly.
Well, he was going off
in all fairness, I wasn't planning on it. Yeah, that was just me talking, and then it came out.
No, but
so as you can see, I have a foul mouth, and you can catch that on the Waffle Press. Yeah.
So
I'm dirty as hell.
So to go back to what we were saying, we're talking about how in the death of Superman, basically the one execs wanted a giant spider in it, and they kind of did in Man of Steel.
It's a squid spider.
Yeah. He fights a robot spider, right? It's like robotic.
Yeah, that too as well.
It's a robot in Death of Superman, it was supposed to be a Thanagarian snare beast, and he was just like, we need a giant spider, like something big.
Yeah.
And in the end of Man of Steel, you see him fighting a giant squid spider, and if you know like that old script, you're like, he got a dang spider, man. Yeah, basically. He got it. He got the spider. Not only that,
but he doesn't die in Man of Steel. Or this was like the setup.
No. This in the movie, it was supposed to be him fighting it off. Also the idea of Superman having to fight the polar bears, like in Man of Steel. Remember when he lands? You remember he lands in Man of Steel, and then like there's 2 polar bears that attack him, and then he just like kind of hits one, and then one runs off.
Okay.
That's actually in the Death of Superman. That's in Kevin Smith's cut. Yeah. Because the person that was doing it, I forget his name. He goes, there has to be some action point in when he gets to the Fortress of Solitude. And he goes, who's he going to fight?
Yeah.
It's the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
There's no one there. Yeah. It's where Superman goes to be alone.
And you know what's funny is that when you talk to the exec that ordered the giant spider, he says, "Oh yeah, I never said that."
Yeah, when Schneppen, I need to look him up because he was a hairdresser. And then he got promoted upwards because that's how it works in Hollywood.
I'm learning so much about the DCE.
Have you? Did you never watch
that documentary?
Have you never watched John Schnepp's documentary?
No.
But then another thing too is that if you didn't know this as well too, Warner Brothers was trying to do a Justice League movie before.
Absolutely.
Which was Justice League Immortal, which was supposed to be done by George Miller.
Look, I'll be honest with you. Like DC in general confuses me, and this isn't me saying like Marvel. No, shut up. No, I know there was some people in there's like, oh well, it's because you like Spider-Man. Shut up. No. It's just confusing because like you look at the animation like department, the animation stuff is like, massively different. Like you'll have like Superman Red Sun, right? And you'll have like Gotham Knights, the story one with Batman, and like all these different iterations of the animation studio. None of it is sequential.
Absolutely, and I think that was like kind of like the genius thing when they were going over in the DC when DC was going over all their stuff. I thought it was genius when they were just like, so what are we gonna do for a Flash movie?
Yeah.
And they're like, what we're going to do is we're just going to make the multiverse. Like, we're going to use all of our past movies and past ideas.
Yeah.
And we're going to throw them into one movie and then go, it's the multiverse. All of the movies that we've had so far are a giant library of things.
And the shows as well.
Are canon, but they've just been happening on different Earths.
Okay, so I'm going to build off on that and kind of take over this next point of conversation.
Go for it.
Because watching Man of Steel, watching BVS and Aquaman and Wonder Woman, it never really feels like this is a different iteration of DC stories. Like, okay, granted, that's not what you get with the comic books either because they don't talk about the multiverse if they don't know that. Okay, yes, I understand that. But it felt like these movies were trying to establish themselves as like the definite what we want to do with this movie verse stuff. It didn't feel like this was like a different storyline because one of the biggest things that people don't like is Batman killed people in BVS, right? Okay, well, what kind of Batman is this? Is it an old Batman? Why is he making the Justice League when he's old? Like, none of it makes sense because it doesn't really fit the comic books and stuff and the storylines that we've grown up with. So this is kind of weird. The Snyder Cut really made me feel comfortable that now I understand that Snyder was trying to build a different universe with these movies.
Absolutely.
Because now there is a reason for me to see Batman fight the way he fights. We understand that Batman was trained under the, what is it called? I'm gonna get so much hate for not knowing this, League of Assassins.
We don't know that in this.
We don't know that. But how does he fight? How do we know that he fights? Because in the comics, in different iterations,
he actually, in some comics, doesn't even train with the League of Assassins. He actually travels the world and goes to like different.
So we get different
monks.
Yeah, and again, this goes off of like our knowledge, though, that in some he does, in some he does.
Well, because that's the whole thing. Because in some iterations, he goes off and that's how he meets Zatanna, because he ends up training with her dad. In the art of like escape and illusions.
Yeah, he's learned different types of stuff.
Yeah, like he goes around kind of like picking up like skills. He goes to different like monk. He basically does the whole like he does the Jesus thing. You know, he goes away for like 10, 15 years, comes back, and he's just like, I'm Batman now. And then later on in the comic books, you find out like the training and the stuff that he did. Very much the Arrowverse style.
But even
run into the League of Assassins. But
he runs into them.
Yeah,
but like, granted, we didn't know much of Batman besides that this was a different, older Batman. We didn't get any backstory. So why was he using guns? Why is the Batmobile, loaded with, different types of ammunition? Okay, in the Snyder Cut, he's been doing this for 20 years. This is a worn and torn Batman that we saw in BVS with explanation. That's why his fighting style is more brute, more like, okay, he's just shooting off the parademons with the gun that he has there. He's not doing these gymnastic flips and stuff like that. But Snyder, and I noticed this, uses more of the grappling hook than the theatrical cut.
Yes,
and I love that.
He gets in and out of situations. You see him flying around a lot more.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Because now I feel more comfortable with this iteration of Batman. With that said, this is a different universe of DC superheroes. I feel much more comfortable accepting the Man of Steel and BVS movies and the Justice League movie with this iteration.
I also feel that the one thing Snyder did kind of get is that Batman is mildly suicidal. Where it's not like he's willing to take it. He's not willing to take his own life, but he's very much willing to like lay.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, he feels that
he's
expendable.
Ready. He very much thinks he can lay on the grenade. If I can lay on the grenade and Superman or Wonder Woman can defeat the big bad, we wouldn't have lost as much as we would have if we would have lost them. Because there's tons of stuff. Paul Dini did it inside of the Justice League show with Bruce Timm, where like there's a nuke going for Superman, and he's fighting Doomsday, and he has to, and basically Batman, lands on top of the nuke that's flying at him, and is able to like take it away with him, and it blows up, and he's able to escape it at like the last minute. And it's a really interesting moment because even Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, they were able to kind of give him that same grit where. After that, Superman kind of comes and like, gives him that like, hey, thanks a lot, pal. And Batman yells at him where he's like, you don't get to tell me thank you. You don't get to like be like happy about this. We got into this situation because you were arrogant. And I love the idea of they are friendly, but there is always a contentious thing where it's like at any moment, like we're cool, but if you ever go one way or the other, I am not afraid to take you down.
So this reminds me of the Justice League Doom, and I'm going to reference Justice League Doom because
it's the only movie he's seen.
No, it's because I love this line. It's what's the comic book it was based on? It was like the
Tower of
Babel. Yeah. So this is my favorite line, and I've always referenced this because this is the Batman I grew up with, where he's like, why did you know so much about like why did you implement these plans to stop the Justice League, right? And he's like, because you needed a contingency plan to hold each and every one of them accountable if something went wrong.
Yes.
Well, what was your contingency plan? The Justice League. I love that line. That is goddamn perfection. Now, Rene, you mentioned this, huh?
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, Kevin Conroy. No, Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy saying
that, but that's my Batman. Yeah, that's my Batman.
That is true. Yeah, but that's a great line.
That's great. My God, I continuously watch that movie just for that line.
Yeah. He fast forwards just to that line, and he's just like, yeah.
There's one line for Batman line, but go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Okay.
And I'll say
yeah.
You mentioned this yesterday, and I didn't notice until you mentioned it. In this cut, the idea to bring back Superman isn't just Bruce Wayne.
It's everyone's.
And that is what made me so mad on the theatrical cut. Because Bruce Wayne is smart. He's not irrational. He's not quick to think of like what's the easy solution.
Yes.
This is a unified decision to bring back Soups. And this is fantastic because now the blame is on everyone.
Yeah.
And Batman is more confident. We get a very confident, like, I've been on the job for 20 years. I know what I'm doing here.
Absolutely.
And I love that. And that is the Bat flick I love.
But I really do like the idea that they set up the mother box way more.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about
like
that. Like
the idea that the mother box has just so much backstory to it. Not only that, but also just Victor Stone with the mother box. Like Victor Stone literally just talking about, introducing what the mother box can do, everything like that. He is very much your exposition. This is our exposition king right here, where he's just going to tell you everything about the tech and how exactly the mother box works.
Yeah.
And I love that moment where all of them have the same thought, just like you said. And like literally Barry Allen goes, I'm not going to be the first one to say it, but everybody's thinking it.
Yeah.
And then you hear one of them go, we can bring Soups back. And then they all kind of agree. And it's a group effort because you're right. Because when I watched the theatrical cut, when I watched it earlier today, I didn't like that Batman and Diana got into kind of like a fist fight.
Yeah, it was like it was getting physical.
It got very physical, and then not only that, but also I thought Batman was very petty about it.
He was irrational.
Well, the way he brought up Steven, that's the thing.
because he brings up Steve Trevor.
Yeah,
and he goes like, "Is that what you told Steve Trevor before he killed himself to save you?" And then it's like, "Oh, whoa! Like we skipped a few levels, bro. Like, come on, man.
You went from 0 to 100. Like
he really does skip a couple, and then like that's able to convince Diana to say yes to this. And then Aquaman is just like continuously going, this is a bad idea. Oh, God. I did it again.
Wow.
So
I
that's
need
two
the
bleeps.
Yeah,
This is 2 bleeps
45
now.
minutes and 30 seconds.
2 bleeps. I'm in 2 bleeps now. This is.
You said 45?
This is looking bad now,
45
man.
minutes and 30 seconds.
I feel like I
Got
have to take a shot every single time I bleep now.
No, you
in order
should.
to- in
No,
order
that's
to
going to
get it
make you
done.
more cursed. That's going to loosen you up too much.
I'm just no, but anyway.
No, but you know what? I like it because it shows the passion that we have like for
Absolutely,
this. Yeah.
But the thing is that for Superman and everything else, I also really love the idea that it is not just I fly. As soon as he comes back, I do like the idea that he is kind of confused.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who he is.
But that is explained in this cut better than in the
It
theatrical
is.
cut. Yeah.
It is. And I think I really like that. I really like how once again, I feel like what this cut does is it explains things.
Okay.
There's a lot more explanation.
So
just everything.
That is the thing that both Rene and I loved about this.
Yeah.
Because so we spent 8 hours
Yeah, we
watching
spent a
it.
whole day outside.
Yeah, and that was because we were doing things in between and stuff like that. But like, still, it was, at the end of the day, my fiance asked us, she's like, "Is it worth the 4 hours?" And Rene and I both looked at each other and were like, "Yes and no. Yes,
It's worth watching for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But the thing is that you have to really pace yourself.
Yeah.
Watching it.
It is worth it though because we do have better character establishment in the original theatrical
Absolutely.
cut. You get Barry Allen
Yep.
off the bat. We don't know anything about him. We don't know his intentions.
Yeah.
If you think of Barry Allen, you think of the person that's working in crime investigation, right?
Yeah.
But
I was thinking Grant Gustin.
Yeah, but you don't even like get any of that. It's just he just looks like a delinquent right out in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, in Cyborg,
Yeah.
Victor Stone, we just see him as Cyborg, and there's no explanation. You are left to assume that his creation is because of the mother box, and this goes back to what you were saying. A lot of the theatrical cut is based on assumption. You're watching this movie because you're a DC fan, then you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You already know how Cyborg was created. You already know what the Flash does. You already know all about Batman.
The big thing, on the assumption thing, is that a lot of what I noticed from the theatrical cut is that they do it. They're showing you cool things like clips. I noticed in images. Like a lot of like Victor Stone playing football and like his car crash and everything like that. It's the scene when he's sitting on his couch and then he opens it up and that's when he figures out he can go into like databases and he researches himself.
But it's so quick.
And stuff like that. But the thing is that I really liked Iris Stone explaining what he can do. I loved that, and him going into his own brain.
Yeah,
and then it's like, oh, you can control nukes if you wanted to. You like the
in the Snyder cut, right?
In the Snyder cut, you can, like, databases are nothing to you.
And
you could mess up in the entire world if you really wanted to.
And the way he helped out that woman, which was okay. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the one he helped out that woman, was that woman he helped out in college? Or was that just a random woman he was?
No. If you watch it, he's going through
just
cameras and everything like that.
Oh, he just finds this woman,
and he sees this woman who's struggling, and she has 3 kids, and she's homeless. And she's trying to make amends, and she's trying to, like, she's going to work and everything like that, and life is just hard. The world has kind of forgotten her.
But this isn't someone that he knew.
It's not somebody he.
So she's a random person.
Okay. So Rene mentioned, because I pointed out to him, I'm like, it's so interesting that with his, like, manipulation and stuff, he only gave her $100,000. And I'm like, it's like I said this. I liked it because it wasn't a massive amount of money, like nothing ridiculous, like give this woman $10 million, right?
If you think about it, that's like enough for you to buy a house, maybe get a job in a car.
So I didn't know this, Rene.
I told him this. So basically, if you the largest deposit that you can put into your bank account without the IRS getting flagged by the IRS is $100,000.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I was like, that is such a fun fact. I don't know. We have to fact check it.
No, it is.
That's 100% okay. Because I know someone's gonna be like, oh, well, it's just
that's kind of dope then, because but they were also, but he was mentioning too, financial systems you would totally understand.
Yeah.
And I think that would be super interesting, because it's kind of like the idea of Oprah giving you a Maserati, and it's the idea of, like, Oprah gave you a beautiful car, but then when the tax man comes,
tax man,
he then beats you over the head with a $45,000 bill, and then goes, "How's that Maserati now?" And then you're like, "Damn you, Oprah!"
Damn.
But it's interesting because even in the ATM machine, it says, like, "Oh, congratulations, winning, like, the Gotham City Bank lottery or something."
Yes.
And that's why I was like, "Oh, so there was so much attention to detail in this Snyder cut," and it's like that's what makes me appreciate this movie so much more. Is that I love Batman, but my DC superhero has always been the Flash. I love his superpowers. I love the story that goes behind him.
I think you were more of a Wally West, though, right? Instead of Barry Allen?
Yes, but also because of the Flash TV show, I started getting into Barry Allen because Wally West was the Justice League animated one.
Yes.
And that's how I knew of him and got into him. But then they brought back Barry Allen, and I was like, okay, let's go ahead and learn more.
And if you guys want to know why, I'm just talking to listeners, if you guys want to know why they did that, to use Wally West at the time, it's because Wally West was Flash in the comic books during that year.
Yeah.
Because Barry had already died.
Fun fact, like listeners, if there is ever a main character in the comic books, it's because the publishing company has those characters alive and well in a TV show or movie somewhere.
Also, that's the same thing with Jon Stewart. Because Hal Jordan at the time was...
he was parallax?
He was parallax at the time, and Jon Stewart had just taken up the mantle. Not only that, but also Paul Dini and them were just like, this team looks a little too white. You know, like,
this is the thing. People don't realize that.
We really need a diversity hire right now.
Yeah, people don't realize that sometimes, like, comic books translate over to movies and TV and the other way around.
That's why they make John Johns now black, like, when he's a human.
In all fairness, makes sense.
Yeah,
totally makes sense.
But going back to the whole Barry Allen thing, I was very sad that in the theatrical cut, Barry Allen was just kind of, like, thrown in there. Like, it was a shame because I was excited to see a young Flash and seeing how he would get his dad out of prison.
Absolutely.
And in this one, there was a lot more respect to him. Like, Ezra Miller, now I see him as a good Flash.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before, I think I said it before, where I didn't really care for Ezra Miller in the theatrical cut. Now I love him.
You know what the funny thing is that because I was telling you when I first walked in today, was that the thing I loved the most was the amount of respect that was given to the Speed Force.
Yes.
The amount of respect that was given to the Speed Force in this movie is insane. And not only that, but also to just Barry's powers. Because I have to admit, when I heard about the scene that was cut, because I remember they had said there's a scene where Barry runs, taps a window, and then it cracks around him, and then he runs through it, and everything because he's moving so fast that the window just shatters. I loved seeing it. I loved seeing that, and I also really enjoyed the amount of humor that's in Ezra Miller because it really shows in his character.
He's a one-liner dude.
but not only that, but also you can see where his brain is going. Like I love the scene where he is saving Iris, and right when he's about to like, you know, kind of like touch Iris, he then like looks and then sees a hot dog flying through the air and then goes, genius. And like takes the hot dog and then puts it in his pocket and then saves Iris. Because I love the idea of him thinking, I have plenty of time. I can take my time. Yeah. I can do whatever the hell I want. There's a great line that's out of the Justice League Immortal what was it? Script. Yeah. And it's Barry Allen talking to John Stewart. And he goes, what is it? And John Stewart asks him, what's it like to be running that fast? And he goes, it's like running through a hall of statues. Oh, everybody, it feels like everybody is standing still. And it's also one of my greatest fears, because I sometimes fear that I will not, that they'll never move again. And it's such an interesting,
good line,
because the Speed Force, like the Speed Force is known amongst us, but it was never like, because this is the way I see it. All movies are going to be advertised for a casual audience, and I know I'm gonna get hit so much hate for that and be like, no, because the fans are the ones that demanded a Snyder cut. No, I'm sorry, but the movies are all for casual audience. That's how you get butts in the seat. Like everyone knows of Batman, and everyone knows about Spider-Man, everyone knows about all these main superheroes, Wonder Woman and you know, Wolverine and all these things, because people wear those shirts, right? Absolutely. So when we talk about the DCEU, how do you make it accessible to the casual audience? You start to trim off certain pieces of fat that are very hard to understand. But Snyder managed to make the Speed Force much more understandable. I really love the fact that as soon as Iris gets into the car crash, his instinct is to turn around and save her. His shoes are gone.
Absolutely.
Because of the amount of friction. Yeah. And that's like, yes, because it makes you understand. Right off the bat, you understand this guy is moving super fast, that it's causing his shoes to essentially rip apart, right? You said the whole glass breaking in that kind of aspect as well. That's another little, you know, piece of tribute as well.
He's vibrating at such a frequency that the glass just shatters.
Exactly. Like it doesn't even shatter immediately. It bends. And then shatters.
Bend and then it shatters. I love the idea of that, because I do like the idea when you start getting into like later renditions of the Flash, once he starts understanding his powers more. Time travel is very much a thing, but I love the idea of the physics around the Flash of I can vibrate at a certain frequency and then eventually I can vibrate through anything.
Yeah.
You know, I can vibrate through a wall. I can vibrate through glass. I just have to, but it's one of those things of I have to know what the frequency is and everything like that in order to vibrate through it.
But and
it's a lot of practice and stuff like that.
And that's where those 4 hours are worth it, because now you get better character establishment. Absolutely. You know, not only in like Batman, and because Batman gets a better character establishment here as to like why he is the way he is, but in terms of seeing the Flash and Cyborg, you know, you see these characters better established and their storylines being told to people that might not know it. Cyborg's introduction, I mean, when you think of Cyborg, what's the first thing you think of? Like, where's his Teen Titans? That's how people grew up with him.
Well, that's the team he was originally on.
Exactly. So now, you know, why is he not saying booyah? Why is he not like, why is he not like super dramatic?
They did take out the booyah.
They did, which was a shame, but I liked it because it was a grittier, darker version of Cyborg.
That wouldn't be Snyder's Cyborg.
In all fairness, though, I wouldn't have been surprised if there was still a booyah. I honestly wouldn't have been surprised. Like after the whole like end thing and everything like that. To be totally honest, I thought after Steppenwolf's death, I thought he was gonna say "booyah" and everything like that,
because Darkseid.
Yeah.
Booyah. Yeah, like right to Darkseid.
Oh, that would have been cool. Honestly,
that would have been pretty cool. But which also
that's because we're nerds.
But we'll get there. But also, what a slap in the face to go to like Darkseid and just go like, "Hey, here's your boy."
Oh no, we were talking about that. We're like, what a message to send to Darkseid. Be like, you sent this guy, but look, his head. He's headless.
This is how we send him back.
Yeah. That was badass.
That was it. But know what? I have to admit, even that scene. Okay. Besides that, because going back to the Flash, because we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
For that, I really appreciate the fact that Zack Snyder showed and didn't tell. Because there was a lot of stuff inside the theatrical version where a lot of things were told to you, but they weren't shown to you.
This was very much a movie that felt like a movie rather than like visual scripts.
Yes.
I know someone's going to be like, that doesn't make any sense. No,
it absolutely does.
No,
because
that does.
it does. Because I do feel like what they did is they went through the script and then literally got like a Sharpie and just marked out what they didn't want and then
like
wrote
CIA
in.
status.
Yeah, and then just like they just redacted everything and then wrote in the corner, Cyborg says something funny. And
they don't even say booyah because they don't know. That's why.
Cyborg says comment. I don't know what.
Something cyborg.
Yeah, something cyborgy.
And then like someone looks at it and goes,
booyah?
you know he says booyah, right?
That's it. All right, so we're gonna go with booyah now.
Yeah.
Everyone, go ahead and start rolling.
All right, Ray Fisher. We're gonna do take 2 on booyah.
So do you want me to go booyah or
booyah?
No, it's just booyah.
But I was telling a buddy of mine, I can totally understand where Ray Fisher was pissed. I totally
Explain.
Like when he saw this movie, like the theatrical?
When I saw this movie, I totally get it.
Oh, okay.
Now, think about it like this: you're a new actor. You are not only starting out in the business, but also you just got cast in probably the next blockbuster.
That's true.
And
really quick. Does anyone know where Ray Fisher came from? What other movie? Like name a movie that he's.
No, this was his big break.
Yeah, this was his big
break.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, though. Mind you, the script that not only did you read, but also the script that I shot has me in maybe 30% of the movie.
Oh.
The movie movie that I saw in the theaters has me maybe in 5%. And it doesn't show any of my acting. It doesn't show me any of the it doesn't show any of like my character development. It doesn't show any of like the true acting that I can really do. It doesn't show much of like my chops. And when I brought this up to Joss Whedon and the execs, they didn't care. Or they said it doesn't matter. Or there are bigger characters that needed the time.
Wasn't Ray Fisher happy that the Snyder Cut came out?
Absolutely. He loved this cut.
Yeah, he was really pushing for this.
He was the one, like, he was like, this is the appropriate cut. This is the cut I wanted.
Oh, so there's a possibility if they do go on for another one
that
Ray he might come back.
He would be down. But but you see where I'm going. I can totally understand where his frustration was.
Yeah, because before he did, the Justice League or even BVS, he was only featured in like 2 things, and they were all TV stuff. He was in a short, and then he was on an episode of something.
He was basically discovered. He was, this was gonna be his introduction into the movie business.
Someone literally like gave him a big break. They looked at him and they're like, this is
Cyborg.
Yeah.
Well, because you don't get casted as an essential character and then just kind of tossed aside.
I think he auditioned, and then they said, "You know what? This guy's
yeah, because now as you said it that way, I understand. Because Cyborg is an essential part of this movie.
He is.
And now Snyder with this cut, essentially, because so if we take what we said about Ezra Miller and apply it to Ray Fisher and Cyborg, it makes sense because we didn't like Ezra Miller as a Flash in Justice League, the theatrical cut.
Absolutely.
But in the Snyder cut, we're like, we now see how Ezra Miller can act as the Flash because he's got those comedic one-liners. He's got there's more respect to the Speed Force. He actually looks and acts like a Barry Allen Flash.
Absolutely.
Great. We apply that same concept and idea to Ray Fisher Cyborg, and you even said it's a shame that Ray Fisher won't come back as Cyborg because you liked him.
Yeah.
Now we get it. Okay, now I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's one of those things and that's what I'm saying. Because I would be super mad if I got into this movie, I shot everything. It was coming out really dope. Zack Snyder was showing me like dailies and everything like that.
Yeah, he's hyping you up.
He's hyping you up, saying like, this is gonna be your big break, bro.
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna be.
This is it. This is essentially your movie.
This is gonna be your movie. Just because it's Justice League, you get more screen time than Batman.
Mm-hmm.
You get more screen time than Superman.
And to be told that,
and then when the movie comes out, you have maybe 10 minutes of this movie.
That makes sense now.
I would be so upset. I would be furious. Not only that, but also they basically turned my character into a calculator.
So, and then if you think about when he had to do reshoots with Whedon, that there basically he he went from being in front to being kind of like, oh no, you're pushing the back, but we're gonna push Batman here. Wonder Woman's gonna be right here next to Batman, but you're gonna be like right behind.
You're gonna be like in the corner,
in the choir line. You're no longer in the front. We're moving you all the way to the back.
We're bringing all the white people forward. Yeah. We're gonna push you in the back.
Yeah.
Well, because
excuse me.
But that honestly is what his biggest complaint was. That's what he was saying. Yeah. He was saying that he goes, I felt like it was very racially biased. Yeah. And every single time I brought it up to the studio heads and also to Joss Whedon, that's how I felt. They very much just told me, get over it. And
you're in this movie.
Yeah, you're in this movie. You should be lucky that we're still keeping you in this movie.
See, and that makes sense because again, he doesn't have the star status.
He doesn't have the star status to push for his seats.
But it also makes sense. Like if we were to take the whole racial aspect aside, from a studio exec suit perspective, it only makes sense to advertise your Batman and your Superman and your Wonder Woman, your big three,
absolutely,
because that's where the money is made.
Yeah, but then having Jason Momoa,
that's what puts butts in seats.
Yeah, and I get that now.
So constantly showing Jason Momoa shirtless as well too. Like
that's 100% right.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, I really enjoyed. To be totally honest, I hardcore enjoyed the dialogue more in this in the Snyder Cut.
We were talking about that because Alfred and Diana's dialogue. It was
love it. I love that scene where she's making the tea
and he can't stop trying to intervene.
He's all antsy.
But that shows respect towards the characters because like Alfred is a very smart, respectable, I don't want to say, butler.
He's a butler.
Right?
That's his job.
But he's smart.
No, he calls himself a butler.
Yeah, he even says, I'm a butler.
But that's where the respect is, because you don't look at Alfred as like a typical butler. He's like the butler of all butlers kind of thing. And Diana is a strong, independent strong woman. So Alfred talking to Diana is like,
she's an Amazon that doesn't take orders from men.
Yeah.
So he's like...
Yeah, so he's trying to tiptoe that line of like,
but it's still respectable.
Yeah, it's best not to scorch the tea.
Yeah, it's best not to scorch the tea. But not only that, but also I really enjoyed how she finds how she finds Cyborg.
No, it's
Cyborg
really good
because Cyborg realizes that she's looking for him, and then goes, "I want to meet here." Because I actually didn't like that inside the theatrical version of Cyborg watching Batman and Wonder Woman, them doing nothing and them going, hey, we need to find this Cyborg guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden him going,
he's right there. Yeah.
And then like he's right there. And then as they're talking, like, how can I trust you? And then she goes, well, if you couldn't trust me, then I would have defeated you at the river. And then it's like, wait a minute, hold on, wait. So you knew he was there.
Yeah, you knew you were talking about
him. And no one followed him? Like no one stopped him? Like no one went, hey man, I got a business option for you.
Again, this is all based on you have to assume that everything is happening for a reason in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, so that also means that the world's greatest detective and the world's strongest Amazonian needed somebody, and they're on a timetable, and we'll get him later.
We'll
get him later.
There's a big threat here. He's over there. But I'm not going to do anything.
I'm not going to do anything. No, because to be totally
honest,
I
need is right there.
No.
I need him.
Because in all later. Because you know what? You know what the easiest way to make that scene amazing? Ray Fisher sees them. He turns and Bruce Wayne is behind him.
That would have been perfect.
That would have been an amazing scene because that immediately shows, I know you're here.
Yeah.
I am the greatest detective / ninja. You can't sneak up on me, man. I do that. That's my thing.
Yeah, but again, this is an old Bruce Wayne.
It
but
matter.
Still, that's Bruce.
That means that he should be better at it.
I mean, yes, but also,
the scene,
it could have like
the scene of him on top of Gotham GCPD, and then him leaving, and then Barry Allen standing there and going, "Oh, they just left."
They can do it.
That's rude.
They can do it. Yeah.
There's no reason why you should go, well, he's just too old now. The rickety bones. He can't sneak up on a cyborg.
I just thought of the scene that in the opening of Justice League where Batman's basically trying to bait a parademon.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. That made no sense. And thinking about it now, watching this one.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
They had it that was not in the movie. Obviously, that was Whedon's.
Also, when parademons explode, apparently the mother box shows.
Oh yeah, like those little things. Oh yeah, that's where we get that because they cut out the whole Diana scene where she looks into that little vault.
Yep.
And then her explaining. Dang.
But not only that, but also it cuts that scene of her finding out from the vault, and then she just shows up to Bruce and goes,
and knows all this.
This is what happened. And they also swapped out Steppenwolf for Darkseid.
Yes, that was another big thing.
If you look at the theatrical cut, all the scenes where Darkseid is like he kills the Green Lantern, he ends up killing a couple other people and stuff like that. That's all Darkseid. When Ares hits him with an axe and it cuts right into him, that's Darkseid. Darkseid being carried into the ship and everything else. They changed all of it for Steppenwolf.
There's an emphasis on the anti-life equation as well.
There's a huge emphasis. And not only that, but also I was insanely interested because immediately, as soon as they go, the anti-life equation is on Earth.
And now we're just like, oh.
I was like, that's why Darkseid is here. That is why Darkseid cares about Earth. Because in my head, I was going like, why would Darkseid give any care about Earth? Like, why would he come here? And I thought it was interesting too, because I came up with a theory. And I was like, the easiest way you could have also explained it is that the anti-life equation is the reason why Superman's pod landed on Earth, why Batman has been created, why the mother box was used to do this. The anti-life equation is creating protectors in order to safeguard it.
Yeah, why Barry Allen
was chosen for the lightning. Why John Jones was found Earth.
Yeah.
You know,
that would have been explained in the second movie.
And I thought that was such an easy explanation of just this this entity, basically this thing that controls the entire universe and time itself. And what it's doing is it's creating its heroes. It created all the heroes on Earth in order to make its own protectors, so that way if people did come to take Earth, the Age of Heroes could then come back. That's the reason why this is the only planet that was ever able to hold off Darkseid.
Definitely makes sense.
And everything else. And I was like, that is genius. That is so smart. You literally said 2 lines and you have an entire movie that you can make out of
But this goes back to the idea that Snyder had all these plans, and like this is a much better fleshed out movie.
It is.
It's a much more respectable movie in that sense, you know? I know we're about to hit the hour mark, or we're at the hour mark.
We're an hour and 10.
An hour 10. So we've got about 20 more minutes. We'll go to about an hour 30. It's going to be a long one because it is a
4-hour
movie. Yeah. So granted, and more content for listeners because
honestly,
people have been saying it's like, why aren't you guys longer? Because we don't want to bore you. And plus, it's like a weekly thing. It's a treat. Come on,
Not only that, but also, I mean, it's a 4-hour movie. 2 hours, man. 2 hours. I mean, 2 hours minimum.
Yeah. So real quick.
Yep.
Going back to this question. Is it worth 4 hours?
It was.
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay, now...
I did say, though, when I was explaining it to somebody, was that this movie would be great as a miniseries.
Yes, it would have.
It would have been great. You literally could have chopped it up into 2 chapters each, and then that way because for some reason as consumers now, with Netflix and everything like that, a 4-hour movie sounds impossible.
Yeah.
But an 8-episode miniseries where they're an hour each sounds doable in a day.
I mean,
I don't understand it.
You can't say that because like people would say, oh, well, Lord of the Rings was like 2.5 hours. So how could you not sit through a 4-hour movie? Because that was the thing that made me mad is like, you had those people that were like Lord of the Ring fans. Like, oh, so you've never seen the extended cut of Lord of the Rings?
In all fairness,
and you're freaking out about a 4-hour movie? Dude.
In all fairness, this movie at a certain point did have some Return to the King vibes.
Yeah.
It was just like...
Oh, it was towards the end. It was towards the end.
It's done. No, it's not. And it's done. No,
Renee
it's not.
and I were talking about this because we've said like, okay, you could... So we talked about this beforehand,
yes.
And I think this is where we're going to spend the most of the 20 minutes. But I do have another question afterwards. Yeah. So I was telling Renee, I'm like, you could have easily like the whole time I was watching this movie, I'm like, where can you split this movie in half? Like, where can you make it be a 2-hour movie? Yeah. It's after part 4.
In all fairness, I don't think you can split it.
So let me tell you why, and then I want to hear yours because I'm interested in seeing that whole like it shouldn't have split. I was telling Renee that if you split this movie in half after part 4, you have a good enough action sequence that it like gives you that satisfaction of like, great, we have all this character development, we have the established idea that there's a reason for Darkseid to come to Earth, and why he wants to like conquer it, why Steppenwolf here, all these things are established now. You have a good action sequence after part 4, you cut it, now what? You have another hour that exists in part 5, part 6, and the epilogue. Guess what you can do with that hour? You tack on another hour, and you have about a 2.5 hour and 2 hour movie.
Yeah.
Justice League Part 1 and Part 2.
Now, the part you're talking about cutting it off at is when they basically come up with the idea of bringing back Superman.
I think it's right after.
Is it right after?
I think it's right after they bring back Superman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because in all fairness, that's a rough place to cut.
But it felt
it's a rough place.
It's a rough place, assuming that we're cutting it as it exists.
Yeah.
If they manipulate and put Lego pieces here and there and like fix it a little bit,
Fix
like
it
you
so
could.
It could end.
Yeah, like it could work.
It feels like a more satisfying kind
It
of cut.
It does. It does. Here's the reason why I disagree. I disagree because we've already seen an example of it, and I feel like it would be Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Oh, I see.
You had an entire movie of explanations. We're basically telling you who these characters are, stuff like that. And in all frankness, Deathly Hallows 1 is boring. So boring.
Believe it or not, I've only seen the first part, not the second part.
My point exactly.
Right? It was so boring you couldn't even watch
you
the second one.
No. You couldn't even finish it.
So the audience knows. If like you guys are new to this, this is why.
Yeah.
I've read the books. I grew up with the books. To have to witness the end of a franchise I loved so much as a kid hurts me. So that's why I refuse to watch the second one.
Well, here's the problem though. So if you have that one, you basically have an Aquaman. You have an Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then Part 2 becomes Justice League.
Okay, so then
Essentially.
That's
basically where you split it. But the problem is that no matter how you cut it, the first 2 hours of this movie is purely dialogue.
Yeah.
It's all dialogue, it's everything like that. But also it has all this ramped up like things where if I don't get a satisfying, because I have to admit, Themyscira, way better action scene this time. Like Themyscira was way cooler this time.
What scene was that? That
was the Amazons.
Amazons. When he's attacking the Amazons.
Because they cut out like a good 50% of that sequence.
Did.
And it was much better done.
Yeah, it felt like it was a baton race of people just going like
a very epic baton race.
You know what it felt like? It felt like the scene in Rogue One when they're passing the the plans to the Death Star and Vader is chasing them. In a way, it kind of felt like that same moment of dread of like, there's nothing we can do to stop this man. There's nothing we can do. Yeah. All we can do is run.
It was a suicide mission.
Yeah, this is a suicide mission. We all know that we're going to die.
That sequence there is actually much better done because, like you said, it's fleshed out to a point that it feels so much better. And there was a bigger emphasis on how powerful these Amazonians were.
Yes.
Because they understood, like in the theatrical cut, you see this sequence and you're like, oh, well, they know, I guess, that they're all going to die. In the Zack Snyder cut, it's like they've already established that this is death for them. They are going to die protecting the Mother Box from Steppenwolf.
They mentioned it like 5 times.
Exactly. And it's good enough because it's like, okay, now we understand that this sequence is not going to drag on forever. Either Steppenwolf dies when the building crumbles or he's going to get the Mother Box.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so much better done. And that's why that sequence in Rogue One, which is my favorite Star Wars movie, is so good because you understand the gravity of the situation.
We know we're dead.
Yeah,
we know
exactly.
We're dead. There's no way that we're going to defeat Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And just like in Justice League, there's no way we're going to defeat Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Our big plan was to drop a building on him.
Yeah.
And that didn't work.
No.
Run. Like, that's all we can do now is run.
Like, it didn't drag on the idea that you're probably going to make this. No, it was, if he gets out of here, you're a dead person.
Not only that, but also if he gets close to you, you're a dead person.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, there's no, like, at that point, it's, I need to pass the Mother Box on. Mm-hmm. Like, I need to give it to somebody else because I'm not going to be able to get away from him.
So then how about this? If we split this up into 2 movies, you do this thing where you include the action sequence with Steppenwolf in the first half, and then you introduce Doomsday in the second part.
In all fairness, I thought turning it into a 4-episode miniseries was fine. Turning it into an hour each. Here's the reason why. At an hour is a pretty good spot. Because at an hour, you've already kind of introduced all the characters. You've already done everything like that. Mm-hmm. You haven't really had an action scene yet, but it's given you enough intrigue where you'd still be interested.
You're thinking about this from a consumer perspective that you can patiently wait. But granted,
that's how you make money.
Nick,
that's how we make more of these.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers does not have the ability to be patient and make money. They could. Because they could. Like, if they pulled the whole MCU aspect where they said we're going to release an episodic series, like, you know, on Disney Plus with WandaVision and stuff, they can totally do it. But this is a film in the making. It's been years. We've been asking for this stuff. Absolutely. So we were already impatient. Well, not us, but like, you know, there's a good portion of people that were impatient and wanted this movie on the spot. So Warner Brothers, to me, it felt like they were rushing this and saying like, okay, do what you got to do. We'll give you a budget of like 30+ million to fix this and make your own cut. But we're going to release it everything all at once because we want people to just watch it and be satisfied.
But here's the thing, though. You don't have to. What it felt like is it felt like a limited series. Mm-hmm. That is definitely what it felt like.
It could have been.
Because at the very end of this movie, it feels like a dun-dun, like a season finale of a show.
Okay. So good that you mentioned that because it's going to bring me to the next transition, the next question. Go on.
So anyway, but it really does. And not only that, but also I feel that if, as a consumer, I do feel that if you were to said it's a 4-episode mini, like limited series, and we might come out with a season 2, we don't have to say or anything like that. But if we're going to make this a limited series, I feel like people wouldn't have complained as much about a 4-hour movie. I feel like people would have been like, that's digestible.
I don't think there's a complaint about it being a 4-hour movie besides reviews. Besides reviewers, but it's
review. But that's the thing, though.
As of people that I've talked to and working here today at the comic book store, I've had a lot of people. It's been very split because I played it here at the store.
Yeah,
I've had people come in and say, "Oh yeah, have you seen like? Oh yeah, it's good," or be like, "Oh, I haven't seen it yet because it's a 4-hour movie." That's the thing.
People feel like a 4-hour movie is very rough to digest.
Yeah, because they didn't sit through they didn't experience the 2.5 hours.
It's a one take kind of thing.
In all fairness, that movie is actually an hour and a half.
But you know what? I've seen sites. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. But I've seen sites like give you a step-by-step guide on how to watch this, where it's like, oh, you can cut it off right here. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you right now, after part 4 or part 3. Part 3 would be 2.5. I personally feel that after part 3, you can take a break.
Well, that's the thing though, is that honestly, I feel like when you see those chapter 3, you could pause it and walk away.
No, I've had people come in and they tell me like, "Oh, I'm only on chapter 4."
Yeah, but here's the thing though. The reason why I'm saying you would have made it a 4-part miniseries is because take WandaVision. I saw it with my brother and he caught up to it when it finished airing. Mm-hmm. He didn't realize that he had been sitting there for 5 hours because he had gotten to, I think, like episode 8 or what is 5 hours? Yeah, about episode 8, give or take. And he immediately went, "Oh man, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Should I stop?" It's just like
we've all been there.
Yeah. But the thing is that he kept clicking play. Mm-hmm. Because he had so much anticipation for what is going to happen next.
It's funny how that splitting apart makes your brain think differently, because there's no difference in watching WandaVision for 5 hours straight by having you click next compared to this, which is just all the way through. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's just the advertisement.
But your brain tells you, "I'm done. I can stop. I can stop right here." And then you consciously go, "No, I'm going to continue." And then you click that next button.
Are you still watching? Yes, Netflix. Shut up.
It's a stupid thing of our brains that apparently, if it's shorter and it's easier for us to comprehend, we want to absorb it more, and we feel like it's more digestible.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you would have just split it up into like an hour, like a 4-episode miniseries, you could have easily. I feel like there wouldn't be any complaints because you literally could have made it. Episode 1, we're introducing the characters. Episode 2. We're introducing the mother boxes. Episode 3, Steppenwolf is just beating everybody up, and the end of episode 3 is basically Steppenwolf has all of the. I caught myself. All of the. I caught myself. He gets all of the mother boxes, and then the last episode is we go to Steppenwolf. We're gonna finish this, and everything else, and that right there is a great limited series if you've ever seen one. 4-hour movie, on the other hand, at a certain time, because I have to admit, I did it too, where I was watching the movie and I looked at the time and I went, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's still an hour left of this movie? What the heck?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was bored. I didn't realize that I had been watching for 3 hours.
For a split second, you got out of the loop of the movie.
I was out of the loop of the movie, and then I immediately went, "What time is it?" And I saw it was 3:00 in the morning because I saw it at midnight.
Which happens when you're in a theater. That's the thing. When you're in a theater as well too.
The thing is that when you're in a theater, I've noticed I know a movie is good if I haven't checked my watch.
Yeah.
If I haven't checked my watch, the movie was good. If I checked my watch a couple of times, then it's bad.
I only have to check my watch watching these things like Winter Soldier and WandaVision was because I would watch it day of release, but after my fiance got home from work, and then we'd come straight to recording. So it's the only reason why I would do that. But it makes sense. Like, you're 100% right. If you don't watch your watch, then it's a great movie because you're not time tracking.
So invested in it.
Do you have anything to add before I add this last question, Rene?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the last question is this, and let's make it 5 minutes here, okay?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this ideology where it's like, we get this. And personally, I felt like Zack Snyder left the potential of making more movies in his DCEU because we get the introduction. And again, if you made it this far into the podcast, I'm going to warn you right now. This is the spoiler warning. It's like, oh man, the big one, Martian Manhunter is introduced here.
Yes,
and
twice
to a point where it's like, wow, like what could have been if we would have had more of these Snyder movies. You get that, and you get the nightmare sequence as well.
Yes, the nightmare sequence by far was, I was telling Rene earlier, one of the coolest moments I've ever seen with Batman and the Joker. I actually thought he was going to steal a line from the Red Hood. I thought he was gonna where he uses the F-bomb and then he goes, what was it? And trust me, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to steal the line from the Red Hood where he goes, "Oh, Brucey, if you had the ability to have that kind of fun, you would have done it years ago."
Yeah.
And I honestly thought he was going to steal the line because it's such a great line.
But you know what? It could have happened because Snyder snuck in the death of what's his name?
Jason Todd.
Jason Todd.
Yeah. Oh, how does it feel to lose the loved ones? You lost your mother, your father, and an adopted son. You're like, oh.
Well, the thing is that from what everybody keeps on saying, especially people who've been working on it, they've all worked on the assumption it's Dick Grayson.
Oh, really?
That's what everybody keeps on saying. They keep
okay,
on saying
well, I mean, it's a different move. It's a different
They
universe.
keep on saying that it's Dick Grayson that died. They've never really mentioned. They always keep on saying a Robin died. So you could always have a Dick Grayson come in, and it was Jason Todd or it was Tim Drake or whoever you want. I mean, you could also have like one of the females. I mean, you like the three girls that were Stephanie Brown,
Carrie Kelly. And then there was one more.
I don't remember. But anyway, but
Cassandra Cain? Was it
Cassandra Cain? It is Cassandra Cain. You're absolutely right. But what I'm saying is that you can automatically have that. But in that nightmare sequence, I thought that would have been a perfect moment for him to downplay what Batman's saying, and just going like, "You would kill me. We're best friends. Like, I love you." And I love that because they actually did pull that from Death of the Family. Because he literally does everything he does in Death of the Family because he's like, "Oh, we're best friends, and the people in the Bat family have made you weak, and so I'm going to eliminate your weakness so that way we can have more fun." And that is going to be my plan, and that is his entire insane plan, is that you were a lot more fun when you didn't have little brats around. So I'm going to kill them.
What could have been? Like, look at all of that just from that one piece in the epilogue, you're getting all of
and
this.
then setting up also like Ben Affleck's Batman with Deathstroke.
I actually think it was Injustice.
Injustice?
I feel like the Joker killed her because it's interesting because if you look at the scene where Superman is holding the skeleton in his arms, because also in this one, spoiler alert, witch hunt, she is pregnant. Lois Lane is pregnant in this movie.
Oh, because of the pregnancy test. Yeah, I noticed it too. We noticed it.
Not only that, but also from the theatrical to this cut, she, instead of her holding a box, she's now holding a baby basket. She's holding a bassinet when she's walking into the Kent home.
I didn't even realize that.
Yes. So she's holding a bassinet, and then also that's why Batman goes, "Congratulations, by the way." He isn't talking about their marriage. He's talking about them having a kid.
Wow.
Yes.
You think that that's probably what Snyder left it at, where he's like, okay, in case I don't get more of these movies, because granted, if Warner Brothers isn't going to get a bunch of money off of this, like it's going to be a chunk of change, but it's not going to be enough to basically make them say like, let's greenlight it.
Here's the thing though, what they were trying to do is they were trying to get people to sign up for
HBO Max.
Yeah. And and I have to admit as somebody who owns HBO Max, there's enough content on there to make me keep HBO Max.
Oh, I'm gonna.
No, definitely. Yeah.
No, there's
especially
no question
for just this year alone.
Yeah, there's enough.
You have to keep it.
There's enough content for you to keep HBO Max, and I feel like if this was the thing that made you sign up for the month and go, I'm gonna spend the $14 to get HBO Max, and then throughout the month you're like, oh, HBO Max has a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah,
it has Fresh Prince, it has Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
and, I can
all
watch
the DC stuff.
I can watch anime on this one. I have all the DC shows. I have all the DC movies. This is pretty awesome. The next month I'm probably gonna buy it again, and it gets you kind of hooked. That is what that's what their goal was. It was to get new subscribers interested into HBO Max that didn't already have it, and then people who already had it, to continue subscribing.
But with the audience reception being so positive, you think that Snyder laid a path for him to say, like, I can continue making these movies if you let me.
Here's the problem though, is that there is a positive reception. There's a lot of people that have a positive reception, but there's also this like faction of nerd that it is still not the movie that they would have made. It's the same people that also have a problem with Star Wars, and I hate those people.
Oh, they just called them out. We're gonna get killed now.
I don't care, because they are a toxic incarnate.
Yeah.
But that's the problem though. In nerd culture, we really do have like weird factions of people that are just like, that's not how I would have made it, and that's why it's bad.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And automatically, there's a lot of people that I've like read the reviews or read their comments about the movie, and they were just like, it's terrible because they don't do this, and it's just like, why don't you take the movie for what it is, man? Like, watch the movie, take it for what it is, absorb it, open your little brain holes, and then like make a comment on what you have right here.
So with that said, to wrap this up, I'm going to say that I do recommend this movie to people who have not. It's difficult because I'm placed in a position of it going back to like, it's a 4-hour movie. If they have not seen the movie, I kind of would recommend them seeing the theatrical and then this, but like over a span of a week. Like, take your time, because this is the perfect definition of what studio versus passion can do.
In all fairness, I would do it the other way.
Because eat your vegetables before you eat your main entree.
But also, I feel like that movie is so cohesively uncohesive, where a lot of things just don't make sense, where it could detract you from watching another movie that's similar to it.
Just right after.
Like, especially right after, but not only that, but also I would rather have my gravy before going into my vegetables, because if it does detract me or anything like that, I can then go, well, at least I saw something good out of this.
I guess.
Because then you can go, I don't need to I don't need to continue. I can, I saw the good one. This one is garbage. I'm not going to watch it anymore. And you go off and you enjoy yourself.
That's true, because I've done that with an anime with Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah.
And the first one I saw was Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never sat down and watched just Full Metal Alchemist.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I just like Brotherhood more.
That's also a faction too. Where people like Brotherhood and the original are better.
Off the anime vibe, I've watched Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Z Kai, and I've always pushed for people, if you don't have the time, you can watch Kai, because Kai cuts all the fat.
I get it.
But if you really want the full, Dragon Ball Z experience, you watch the full series as it is.
Absolutely.
Which is why I've always been on that kind of track where it's like, if you're going to watch a movie like this, watch the original before you watch the new one. And I do recommend people watch this one, because this, again, is an example of studio versus passion. This is a far different movie than the theatrical cut. It's so much different. Like, Rene and I watched it, and within like the first 2 hours, we're like, this is not the Justice League movie that we got in 2017.
I was far more invested in this movie. I noticed that even at 4:00 in the morning as I'm watching it, there were moments where I sat up. Like, I got up in my bed and sat up.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's getting late, and I want to stay awake.
Yeah.
And everything like that. Really quick, before we end, where do you think they would go?
You continue on with a Justice League Part 2.
But what do you think was going to happen? That's the problem.
Probably the prevention of that nightmare world.
because
Martian Manhunter becomes more relevant in this one, and basically is like, oh well, Bruce Wayne is trying to like prevent things from happening.
I don't think so. I think we get Nightmare World.
In the next film,
I think we would have gotten the Nightmare World, but that movie would have been basically Endgame. Because if you listen to the way that Joker talks, he goes, how many timelines do you need to mess up? And I feel like what they were going to be doing is it was going to be Barry Allen going into the past and continuously trying to stop things of like, hey, this is where we messed up. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop this.
This is probably where it's headed to in the Flash movie.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of where the Flash movie is going to. I am hoping that Warner Brothers, reconsiders, because they are saying that the theatrical cut is going to be your standard. That is going to be where we are in like the DCEU. This is like our canon. And I'm hoping that they reconsider after people go.
No, they will. They have to.
I'm really hoping that
the audience reaction's too positive for it not to.
As I was saying, like, my final thought is that this truly opens a door from moving forward, is that people are now seeing what a director can do now without studio interference. That what a vision can be from a director without anyone saying, well, I want this, or well, we should really take out that. I think this truly did open a door now. We're going to see moving forward.
Yeah, we see this in other movies around there. Like what was it? Elf is one of those movies that had a studio cut, and then we got what's his name? Why can't I remember?
The Jon Favreau cut.
The Jon Favreau cut was the one that we got, right?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example, but not a lot of people know about this. If you want a true, like, prime, more modern example, this is it. This is the movie that everyone needs to watch, and compared to an original theatrical cut that makes you understand, suits care for money, and they only go off of a list that essentially says this is what's a good idea. Snyder is the one that has that passion, creative mentality that'll say, this is what the fans want. And not just that, this is what I want. I'm satisfied with this, and this is my story that I want to put out there. If you don't like it, okay, but this is what I worked on.
At least I put it out. Yeah.
But if you think about it, that was technically the second time he was burned by the studio. Because BVS, he also was like, I have a 3-hour cut. It's a 3-hour cut. And I have to admit, if you watch the director's cut of BVS,
the Ultimate Edition,
the Ultimate Edition, it makes them. It's not the best movie.
It still doesn't make it. That's the thing. It's like
it doesn't make it great.
Yeah.
But it does make. But you do understand it, and you understand where Zack Snyder was going.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I think we said this before, or I've said this to you, is that in BVS, Luthor is more menacing.
He is.
It shows Luthor as like he's actually the one behind everything.
Not only that, but also things just like in Justice League, things are explained more. Like Zack Snyder didn't just go, cool, I'm just going to randomly do this. Like the whole thing about people who have the Bat brand die in prison.
Yeah.
And like, because I remember when I first heard that in the movie, I was like, why?
Yeah, why is he branding people?
Why is he branding people? And
just
why
for them
is
to die.
not only that, but also why are they getting killed in prison? Like, wouldn't they be like, oh yeah, they fought the Batman, that's awesome. But the idea that also Crane was in it. I don't know if you noticed, Scarecrow was inside this movie.
Oh, really?
He is. It's in the Lex Luthor cutscene.
Oh,
when they're in Arkham, because he says, hey, he goes, Crane, hurry up.
Oh, okay.
So Scarecrow technically is in the movie. I heard it, and then I turned on the subtitles, and I saw Crane, and I'm like, oh, yes!
That's funny.
But, sorry, I'm a Batman fan, and I saw Arkham Asylum, so I was just like, oh, where are the Easter eggs? So anyway, but the problem is that when you have a situation where BVS also would have done better as a 3-hour movie, Justice League hit the same thing.
Yeah.
Because people didn't like the theatrical version of BVS as well. Then you have this Ultimate cut coming out, and the people go like, it's better.
But it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. And then they were like, oh, all right, Zach. Even the director's cut, nobody liked. Like, people didn't really like, you're going to have to listen to us. And that's the problem. That's where like his troubles.
It's it's difficult. I mean, look, to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's earned my respect and I know my respect means nothing. I'm just an audience and a consumer, but like, you know, when I look at this and say like, okay, well, what directors do I look up to? Snyder pretty much has put himself on that shelf for me and said like, you know, I now see what you're trying to do, and I want to look forward to more projects that you're doing because of this cut here. Did a fantastic job. Definitely. You know, so definitely effort is there, and I love what he did.
Steps away from the studio.
Yeah, he has to.
Yeah,
and I feel like he needs to like make like some indie movies, and like
go back to Dawn of the Dead kind of stuff.
Yeah, like go back to like Dawn of the Dead. Or
Army of Dead's coming out on Netflix soon.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But my thing is that I what I really want him to do is I really want him to get his rep back up.
Yeah.
And because when Dawn of the Dead came out, you know, 300, everybody was like, Zack Snyder's awesome. He's super cool. And everything else. That by far is, you know, the reason why we get him doing Justice
He can do it.
He can do these cool epics that are like really like meaningful and everything like that.
Well, I mean, he also did Watchmen as well too.
Yeah, but Watchmen's also
rough.
One that
Watchmen's rough. Like even if you watch the director's cut, there's so many.
Isn't there an ultimate edition of that?
Watching Watchmen is like watching Blade Runner.
That's true, actually. That is so true.
Yeah.
Where people are just like, no, you got to watch this cut of the movie, and it's like, okay.
It feels like in Watchmen he just added deleted scenes.
But the problem is with Watchmen is that there's a difference between you taking a rendition of a thing, and then there's also a rendition of you just going, I'm going to get the comic book and translate it into a movie, because there's certain things that work in a comic book that don't work in a movie.
Yeah.
And you can easily look at that with the Watchmen movie.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Watchmen TV show, where like they
mentioned the giant squid.
Where they mentioned the giant squid. They did everything like that, and like people were just like, okay, cool, giant squid. And like they just kept moving, like they just kind of kept moving with it, and nobody really blinked an eye. And that HBO show did amazing.
I love that.
It did awesome, and I'm really sad that it's not going to get a second season.
Same here.
But you can see that there are really talented people that can make these stories.
Yeah, of course. Rene, you got wrap up anything?
No, just that I really enjoyed this movie. Batman, I got a Batman in a Justice League done justice. You know, like he wasn't crazy or anything and pushing to, you know, like, oh no, this is it, you know. He made it basically where it's like, oh yeah, no, this is a group effort, guys, we gotta do this together.
1% chance.
Yeah.
No,
absolute certainty.
You're just going, no, it's not. What are you talking about, Batman? Use your brain, bro.
Yeah. All right, Nick, so again, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Thank you. And to the listeners, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Waffle Press. You can also find me on Serving Up Some Comics. We're actually going to be doing a recording for exactly this same thing. So if you want to hear a couple of my co-hosts and their thoughts, I'm also going to elaborate more on that as well. If you want, we're also doing the original Batman the Animated Series. We're doing a rewatch.
Ooh,
wow!
And we're
retrospect or something
like a retrospective, and so we're doing 3 episodes apiece.
Ooh,
and each episode, and we're going back, kind of like going like through the history of what exactly those shows did, you know, how exactly did they make them, and how exactly did they kind of really dive in and change those
that's actually, there's some really interesting stories of how they came up with all that.
And so we're really diving into those, we're also kind of going into like, you know, what should we read, you know, because you should know, Rene, coming into this job, sometimes it's a little bit, you know, of an eye. It's sometimes it's overwhelming.
It is
a little bit overwhelming. Yeah. So we do kind of go like, you know, this is some stuff that we're reading, and we definitely recommend stuff like that. So yeah, come check us out. What was it? You can like Bryan said, in the beginning, you can find us on iCloud. You can also find us on YouTube, anything like that. You know, put in the comments that I sent you, though.
Yeah, no, we'll put all the links in the description
all the links
below.
Will be
So
in the comments, if you put that I sent you, we will send you a waffle We won't, but
we won't.
We will, but we won't.
Watch, someone didn't hear that part. They're like, where's my waffle?
I just want somebody in the comments to be, where's my waffle? And then have my co-host go like, why do they keep mentioning waffles? and then just go like, I don't know, man. It's so strange.
It's so weird.
So strange.
And you got an Instagram and Twitter?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter on the Nick Valero. Hit me up. Let me know if you disagree with me. Yell at me. Do whatever you want, and I will fight you.
With that said, listeners, thank you guys. I know this is a pretty long episode. We're almost into the 2-hour mark. We were aiming it for an hour 30, but it is a 4-hour movie.
It wouldn't be us if we overshot it.
No, of course not. So thank you guys for listening to us. Just a reminder, you guys can find us if you're listening to us on YouTube. We do have audio platforms on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. You can find the links to all of those on the description. And if you're listening to us on an audio platform, hit us up on YouTube. YouTube, there's no link yet. Just look up Keeping Up with the Nerds and subscribe. We're at 42. We've gained like 4 subscribers in the span of like a month, which is real great. So check us out there because we do have weekly videos now. Granted, because of all the content that's coming out. And we'll be doing more, with Godzilla and Mortal Kombat coming out later on this month and next month. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We do have our handles in the description as well. Just look up Keeping Up with the Nerds and hit us up with the follow. Let us know what you guys think of this podcast. And if you guys have any opinions on, the Justice League movie, let us know in YouTube or in, our socials as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just as a reminder, remember to hit that subscribe button and to ring the bell. Because if you don't, then you're not going to get updates that they put up new videos.
Yeah, that's true.
So make sure that you're hitting that. Make sure that you're getting all the content you guys can from these guys because they're doing a great job.
Aw, thanks,
you,
Nick.
No
thanks.
problem.
Appreciate that.
Say it again.
You already have me recorded saying it. Can you put the gun away now?
Please. All right, so this is going to be fun. Nick's going to be in the intro, or the outro, excuse me. Rene, this is you, right?
This is me.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Rene, take us away.
Thank you, citizens, for listening to this issue of Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour. I am your host, Rene.
And this is Bryan.
And this is Nicholas Valero.
Coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California, recording at Undercity Comics. We thank you, citizens, again, and hope to see you all next time.